Welcome to virtual worship with us here at First Parish in Framingham. I am the Reverend Aaron Stockwell, Senior Minister of this congregation, and it has been an honor and a privilege to serve in this role for this last year. I welcome you wherever you are watching from, whether it is just down Edgell Road, or you're in Holliston, Hopkinton, somewhere in between Centerline, Michigan, or Walnut Creek, California. Welcome. First Parish in Framingham is a welcoming congregation. That means it doesn't matter who you are, who you love, what color your skin is, how you move around in the world, how you refer to that great mystery beyond all understanding. What matters is that you are here, a part of this beloved community. For the rest of the welcome today, I'm going to turn it over to Callie. Callie had recorded this piece for last week's youth group service. It got in a little bit after the deadline, and it was so good we just wanted to share it with you, and I'm always glad to share worship with our youth. So Callie, take it away.
If this is your first time visiting us, we are so glad that you are here. There is a link right below this video where you can fill out a form so we can make sure you get the information you need. Or email Sarah Morrison Neal at office@uuframingham.org. Please reach out if you need anything, and reach out if you have strength or skills to offer too. We are all in this together, and together we will help each other through. If you are watching this live, immediately following the service will be our Zoom coffee hour. Everyone is encouraged to join us. It would be so good to see your faces. Love has held our congregation together since 1701. It is a love larger than any walls or screens. So welcome to First Parish in Framingham.
This morning, our opening words come from Angela Herrera's book, Reaching for the Sun. This is her piece, Invocation. Don't leave your broken heart at the door. Bring it to the altar of life. Don't leave your anger behind. It has high standards, and the world needs your vision. Bring them with you and your joy and your passion. Bring your loving and your courage and your conviction. Bring your need for healing and your power to heal. There is work to do, and you have all that you need to do it right here. It is a tradition at the beginning of our services to kindle the flame of our chalice. As I light the flame in our sanctuary, and as the children of our congregation light their chalice as well, you too are invited to kindle your flame. As you do so, and after you have done so, please feel free to type into the chat, the chalice is lit in my home, or the chalice is lit in our home.
Love is the doctrine of our church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve all life with compassion, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. This is our great covenant, one with another and with our God.
Many years ago in the land of Transylvania, in a mountain valley watered by quick rushing streams and shadowed by great forests of beech trees, there was a village of small wooden houses with dark shingled roofs. The people in the village were Unitarian religion, and they wanted their church to be their own. A church set on the hillside, they decided, looking down upon the village as a mother looks down upon her sleeping child, was their vision. So all the people of the village labored long and hard to build themselves a church. The stonemasons hammered sharp chisels to cut great blocks of gray stone, then set the stones into stout and sturdy walls. The glaziers made tiny glass panes and fitted them neatly into the windows with leaded lines. The foresters saved all the beech trees into enormous beams and laid the trusses for the ceiling, and then covered the roof with close-fitting wooden shingles that wouldn't leak a drop of rain. The carpenters carved wood for the pair of wide opening doors, setting them on strong pegs so that the doors hung straight and square. A bell was brought in from a faraway city and then hoisted by ropes with a heave and a hoe to the top of the tower. The weavers wove fine cloths for the altar table, cloths embroidered with flowers and edged with lace. The smiths hammered black iron into tall lampstands and hammered thin bronze into shining oil lamps. Finally, when the building of the church was all done, the painting of the church could begin. The painters mixed bright colors, royal red and shimmering gold and brilliant blue, and everyone in the village, old and young, women and men, boys and girls, came together to decorate their church. They painted flowers. They painted trees. They painted designs around the window frames and different designs around the doors. And at the end of the day, when it was all finished, when their church was finally done, all the people of the village stood back to admire it, and then to sing a song of happiness and praise. Their village had a church now, a Unitarian church set on the hillside, looking down upon the village as a mother looks down upon her sleeping child. "We will eat now," announced an elder of the village, because everyone by then was quite hungry after their long day's work. "And later tonight will come everyone back here to pray," they said. So the village people went down the hillside to their homes and to their suppers, all except one little girl named Zora and her father, who stayed behind. They had brought their own bread and cheese, and they ate their food slowly, sitting on the grass of the hillside and admiring their new church with its strong stone walls, its tall tower, and its magnificent bell. After they had eaten, they went back inside, opening those carved wooden doors to go into the gloriously painted sanctuary inside. "Oh, look, Father," Zora cried, running from one picture to the next with her footsteps echoing off of the stone walls. "See how pretty the church is." She stopped in the center of the church and twirled around slowly. "See how grand," she said. "Yes, it is," said her father, looking around and nodding with pride. "Yes, it is." "But Father," she said suddenly, "we haven't finished yet." "Whatever do you mean?" asked her father. "Well, there are these tall iron lampstands all along the walls, but there are no lamps. The church will be dark when our village friends come back to pray tonight." "Ah, no, little one," said her father. "The light of the church comes from its people. You shall see." He rang the bell to call the people to worship, and then took his daughter by the hand and led her back outside. They waited on the grassy hillside next to their beautiful new church of strong gray stone. The sun had already set behind the mountains, and night was coming soon. Yet, in the growing darkness, tiny points of light came from many directions and moved steadily up the hill. "Each family is entrusted with a lamp, little one," her father explained. "Each family lights its own way here to our church." "Well, where is our family's lamp?" Zora asked. "Your mother is bringing it and carrying it. She will be here quite soon," said her father. The many lights moved closer together, gathering into one moving stream, all headed the same way, growing larger and brighter all the time. Zora's mother arrived bearing a burning oil lamp in her hands, and her father lifted Zora up so that she could set her family's lamp high into its tall iron stand. All around the church, other families were doing the same. Soon, the church was ablaze with light in every corner, for all the people of the village had gathered to pray and to sing. All through the worship service, Zora watched the lights flicker and glow. She watched her family's lamp most of all. When the service was over, her father lifted her high. She took the shining bronze lamp from the lampstand, its curved sides still warm and smooth in her hands. And her mother carried the lamp home, with the flame lighting all the way. The lamp flame lit their house when they returned home. Zora washed her face and got ready for bed by the light of that very flame. "Mother," Zora began when she climbed into bed and lay down. "Yes, little one," her mother replied, tucking the red wool blanket around Zora's shoulders. "Father said that the light of the church comes from its people," said Zora. "Yes," replied her mother, "but also the people take their light from the church. Over on the table by the fireplace, the shiny bronze lamp was still burning and flickering, and we have that light every day." Yes, indeed, said her mother. And even when we are not in church, even when the lamp is not lit, we carry the light of truth in our minds and the flame of love in our hearts to show us the right way to be. That light, the light from truth and love, will never go out. Never? Asked Zora. Never, said her mother. And this bronze lamp will last for many, many years. When you are grown, we will give the bronze lamp to you, and your children are grown up. You will give the lamp to them. And then all of you will carry it back and forth to our church every time. But there's only one lamp, Zora said, puzzled. So make another, said her mother, and let the light grow. And someday tell your children to make more lamps too. And now good night, her mother said, and kissed Zora once on the cheek, and once on the other cheek, and once on the forehead. Zora closed her eyes and drifted into her dreams, while her mother looked down upon her sleeping child. The years passed by, and Zora grew. The bronze lamp came into her own care, and she kept it polished and clean. And when the bell rang out across the valley to call the people of the village to worship, she carried the lamp back and forth to the church on the hillside, the flame always lighting her way. And when the time came, she made more lamps and gave them to her children, who had made more lamps and gave them to their children. And so it went on and on through the years, even until today. And always the light of truth and the flame of love from that Unitarian church on the hillside continued to grow and show them and us the way.
This is the time in our service that we set aside for sharing the things which weigh deepest on our hearts. Because we know that a joy shared can expand the joy. And a burden shared or a sorrow shared can feel as though someone is lifting a burden. As always, there are prompts on the screen that give better order to our sharing. And of course, do remember that in this public space, privacy can't be guaranteed. So if there is something tender that you want me to know about, or you want Caritas to know about, please send me an email.
There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all. I rest in this love. I rest in this love. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love. We rest in this love. is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all. I rest in this love. I rest in this love. There is a love holding us. There is a...
We move deeper into our time of contemplation, meditation, and prayer now. I invite you to make your body comfortable. If you were washing the dishes while listening to this service, I invite you to step away from those for just a moment. Or if you're washing metaphorical dishes, step back and quiet yourself. Turn your attention to your breath in and your breath out. Feel your feet planted beneath you or whatever else is connecting you to the ground. O Spirit of life and love, named and unnamed, but who calls each one of us by our true first name, which is beloved. It doesn't matter what other titles you carry. We are reminded that we are beloved. I give thanks for this congregation, for the leaders who make it go, for the volunteers, for the members and friends who make it what it is, who have made it what it is since 1701. I am grateful. I'm grateful for that history and that commitment. O Spirit of love, there are those in our midst who are anxious, who are healing, who are ill, who are mourning. May we be encouraged to give them some courage, to lend a helping hand when they need it, or a listening ear. Feels as though this COVID-19 pandemic is wrapping up, but let us be reminded that there are still those who are suffering the effects of long-term and long-haul COVID. There are still people in our nation, still loved ones who are dying, who are ill. Still those in our world for whom it will be months before they get a chance to be vaccinated. The mental effects of quarantine will live on for quite a while. May we be gentle with ourselves as we re-enter our world. May we also give thanks for everyone who brought that vaccine to fruition. Let each of us bend the moral arc of the universe towards justice. We know this work is hard and long and can be without thanks, but if it weren't for one or two people moving and thinking that their action did not matter, justice would not be brought to this world. May we proclaim that Black Lives Matter, that gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, intersex, queer youth and adults of all identification and label have worth and dignity, non-binary people as well. May they know that they are loved because of who they are. They are loved and lovable. May we each work to bring more love into our world. And when we ourselves feel unlovable, imperfect, rough around the edges, living with regret, may we remember that because we are living, because we are breathing, there is still always time to reach out to those that we have wronged and say, I'm sorry. How can I do better? I will do better. And here is how. I say these words and do all things for love's sake. Let us now sit in our own separate quiets so that we might rest or hear the prayers of our own hearts. And as we leave this time of contemplation, meditation, and prayer, I invite you to take 3 breaths. First is a breath of gratitude for the wonderful creatures that are ourselves. Second is a breath of gratitude for our community. The final breath is a breath of gratitude for our beautiful and broken world. Amen. This morning, we will welcome 2 new members to our parish. I want to say this. Being a member of this congregation is both simple and complex. It is simple because all that is required is that you commit to the ideals of this congregation and that you sign the membership book. But it is complex because of what signing that membership book means. It means that you have chosen to pursue a spiritual path, following it into the depths of life. It means that you have become a part of a liberal religious community that affirms the dignity and value present in all humanity. It means that you have entered it into a religious movement with a centuries-long history of enriching our world with the values of freedom, reason, and tolerance. I hope that becoming a member of this congregation will bring you joy, happiness, and fulfillment. It is a wonderful place. Remember that thing, though, I said earlier about it being simple to commit to the ideals of this congregation? This congregation, as are all congregations, is made up of human beings who are imperfect. So I hope at some point this congregation might disappoint you. I think that you truly become a member of this congregation and any congregation when it disappoints you and you stay in relationship with it. Our congregational ideals, our challenging ideals to live into. In a way, our congregation's ideals are about a promise about how we will treat one another. Remember this: human beings are promise-making, promise-keeping, promise-breaking, and promise-renewing creatures. Our 2 new members are Anne Gunner and Susan LaFerriere, and they will join our virtual worship service now. And Sarah Morrison-Neal, our office administrator and membership coordinator, will also help me welcome.
Fellow Unitarian Universalist, we welcome you this morning to a great freedom and an equal responsibility that comes with that freedom. To be a complete member is to enter into the life of the congregation, to live its values, and to support it with your time, your talents, and your treasures. Above all, we are challenged to put conviction to work. In joining this congregation, do you embrace this freedom? Do you rise to this challenge? If so, please unmute yourselves and say, I do.
I do.
I present to the congregation our newest members, Suzanne.
Wait, let's go back to in joining this congregation, do you embrace this freedom? Do you rise to this challenge? And you don't have to say, please unmute yourself, because everyone is already muted. So Sarah, if you want to just go back and we'll redo that.
Okay. All right. Fellow Unitarian Universalists.
Oh, just to the enjoining this congregation.
Okay. In joining this congregation, do you embrace this freedom? Do you rise to this challenge? If so, please say I do.
I do.
I present to the congregation our newest members, Suzanne Laferriere and Anne Gunner. We welcome them as our fellow journeyers in the life of the sacred space and our undeniable ministry together. Our new members have signed the membership book, and we honor your membership in our congregation with a membership certificate, which was in the mail to you shortly.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Friends, this is the time in our service that we set aside for sharing some of our financial commitment to this congregation. I share these words from Singing the Living Tradition from Ellen Johnson Fay, who reminds us that the offering is a sacrament of the free church. It is supported by the voluntary generosity of all who join with us. The offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared hopes and values.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Our first reading today is by Henry Nelson Wyman, titled Passion is All Important. He writes, religion, in one sense, is like baseball, or any other form of play or art. The professionals who play in the big leagues render a great service to baseball. Baseball would certainly not pervade our national life, as it does were it not for those big leagues. But if you want to find the true spirit of baseball in all the glory of a passion, you must not go to the big leagues. You must go to the backyard, the sandlot, the side street, and the school playground. There it is not a profession. It is a passion. And when passion becomes profession, it often ceases to be passion. This is as true of religion as it is of baseball. Among the professionals, you will find superb mastery and a great technique, but not too frequently the pure devotion. Perhaps in baseball, the passion is not too important, but in religion, it is all important. A religion that is not passionate is not worth considering. Therefore, I say we need more sandlot religion. The professional, whether White Sox or Methodist, controls inordinately our baseball and our religion. Here ends our first reading. Our second reading today is at the Unitarian Society of Germantown by Kathleen Sheeter Bonanno. The church is a big wooden boat, she writes. Dave and I in a corner as the raindrops patter, then slash through the dark outside. Hold on tight, says the kindly moon face of the minister. But we can smell our own sweat. We roll our eyes and moan and grapple for position. One by one, the others press their bodies against us until finally we tire and lean into their patient animal breath to wait it out together. In the summer of 2020, before I moved from Kansas to Massachusetts, Lizzie and I took an epic road trip to see the many roadside attractions in Kansas. We saw things like the world's largest ball of twine, the second largest spur in the world's largest Czech egg, a cricket made out of John Deere tractor parts, a huge painting of Van Gogh's sunflowers, and a billboard of Jesus coming out of a wheat field, as well as Truckhenge in Topeka, Kansas. It was a wonderful road trip. We chose to only focus on things outside because the COVID pandemic was still in the air. There were more quirky museums inside that we skipped on this trip. As we crisscrossed across Kansas, seeing these sights, seeing these homespun art installations, I wondered out loud to Lizzie, what possesses someone to spend some of their treasure and much of their time and a little bit of their talent, but usually a lot, usually the extent of their talent on these sites? I don't remember how we responded at the time, but here's how I would respond now. They put these up because it is someone wanting to put out a little something about what they believe, to share something of their philosophy in the world, and to share it without regard for their artistic talents or materials. In the summer of 2020, before I moved from Kansas to Massachusetts, Lizzie and I took an epic road trip to see the many roadside attractions in Kansas. We saw things like the world's largest ball of twine, the second largest spur in the world's largest Czech egg, a cricket made out of John Deere tractor parts, a huge painting of Van Gogh's sunflowers, and a billboard of Jesus coming out of a wheat field, as well as Truckhenge in Topeka, Kansas. It was a wonderful road trip. We chose to only focus on things outside because the COVID pandemic was still in the air. There were more quirky museums inside that we skipped on this trip. As we crisscrossed across Kansas, seeing these sites, seeing these homespun art installations, I wondered out loud to Lizzie, what possesses someone to spend some of their treasure and much of their time and a little bit of their talent, but usually a lot, usually the extent of their talent on these sites? I don't remember how we responded at the time, but here's how I would respond now. They put these up because it is someone wanting to put out a little something about what they believe, to share something of their philosophy in the world, and to share it without regard for their artistic talents or materials. These are frequently made with leftover materials. Their presence on the side of roadways of our country says something about the creator's ingenuity and also something about their own philosophy. For the most part, these artists are true folk artists, untrained but passionate, creating something not to end up in a museum but just to be out in the world. The folk artist would likely identify with what Henry Nelson Wyman wrote in his short article from the 1930s, saying that while famous baseball players or theologians make baseball or religion what it is, it's more the kids playing in the sandlot or doing the work of the local church that truly make church what it is. They don't have umpires to keep them in check. They have covenant crafted in community. In this day and age, when I wonder what is the purpose of the church or how do we see it manifest itself in the world, I think it's seen when we bring casseroles to a family experiencing illness or healing or grief, homespun, our own secret recipe, but it's not really a recipe, it's just something that we always have on hand. We know how to make it by feel. It'll never win awards, but it'll bring comfort. And really, that's so much better. You can never get it in a restaurant, really, or buy it in the store. And the church at its best are the lemon bars served after service or during a memorial service, bracingly bright, sweet and sour like life, with a little powdered sugar to stick to your hands. The poem from Kathleen Sheeter Banana was written after the tragic loss of the poet's daughter. And it speaks to the very nature of gathering together as church, to decide to journey together, to accept a challenging covenant, and recite an even more hair-raising spoken affirmation, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve all life with compassion. No easy order on paper, and even more challenging when you add in the human element. Church community is seen in the budget, not just the fact that a budget is a statement of values, better than any affirmation, and not just the meaning of the line items, but beyond what they fund, but the values they fund. It's also seen in the care and attention it takes to create the document. By the time we vote on our congregational budget in a few moments later today, Many, many hours went into creating it and discussing it. And of course, you pledge your financial commitment to it as well. It's another statement of how we care. The second part of this sermon, the first is titled Casseroles, Lemon Bars, and Budgets, is titled A Radically Realized Folk Ecclesiology, which feels like a bit of seminary jargon because it is. And by radical, I mean returning to the root. Realized, I mean how we live that out, how we live out our truest ideals. Folk, I mean living out that art in our local context, committed but perhaps slightly untrained, self-taught. Ecclesiology, that's the study of the church. Ecclesiology is one of the traditional focus points of systematic theology. From a broad, 10,000-foot perspective. Ecclesiology means that church communities are the place that care for the ill, those in mourning, a place to celebrate great joy and life itself. So all of that really means a radically realized folk ecclesiology. That all really means, how do we live out our values at our best? What is the best, truest sense of the local church? Now, to get a little academic here, the word for church, or rather the kingdom of God, perhaps the church with a capital C, in the ancient foundational texts of our Jewish and Christian heritages, was rendered as basilia. But to call it the kingdom of God doesn't quite do basilia justice. Basilia is more a relational metaphor. Process theologian Catherine Heller wrote that the subject of Jesus' parables proposes nothing resembling any historical kingship, empire and patrilineage, dictatorship, or top-down power. The basilia isn't a political program. John Cobb, another process theologian, says that the best English translation may be commonwealth. This term, besides not emphasizing the controlling power of a ruler, suggests that the realm might be organized for the common good. Now, our own liberal tradition, we hear from Rebecca Parker and John Behrens in their book, A House for Hope. They write this about congregations. Congregations can be communities of resistance, countercultural habitations in which people learn ways to survive and thrive that can resist and sometimes even transform an unjust dominant culture. Second, congregations can provide an embodied experience of covenant and commitment among people. They can foster freely chosen and life-giving interdependence. Congregations can ground life in shared rituals that nourish and strengthen people spiritually, emotionally, physiologically, and intellectually, providing a deep, deep foundation for courage and meaningful living. Churches are laboratories for the care of the world, I believe, and its people, catalysts for creating beauty, and energizers for prophetic word and action, to dismantle systemic oppression and violence too. And every church will be different. The church I served in College Station, Texas, lived out some of its values by being proud in the past that it had members who founded the first integrated nursery school or kindergarten in town. Proud too that they were home to the gay and lesbian student organizations when the public university in town said that those organizations could not meet on campus. My congregation that I served in Lawrence, Kansas, proudly proclaimed that no member would die alone. powerful, powerful statements about the purpose of the local church community and the local faith community. You likely have your own thoughts about what the purpose of this congregation is, and indeed it has shifted greatly over its 320 years. At least I hope it has. It has evolved and changed, and still I wonder, in this age, why do we have church? In some ways, church is the last place that provides free adult religious education, which is important. It is a place where people care and care for others. I've lifted up the image over the sermons this year, the image of starling murmurations before, how each bird in that constellation cares and watches for 7 other birds. As the minister emeritus of the First Parish in Concord, Mass, Gary Smith, would say, church reminds you that you do not have to go it alone. When you are awake in the dark of the night, there is someone else here who is also awake. We hold one another. We hold tight. It is also a place connected to history. While the phrase, we've always done it that way before, or we've never done it that way before, is a bit of triangulating the ancestors, it is also a place of connection to the generations of the past and the present and the future as well. Church still provides something crucial. In the sermon delivered at my ordination, the Reverend Peter Bulata describes the many changes that have taken place in society and the place of church and how it has changed with a capital C. The thing that has stayed the same, Peter wrote in that sermon, is that church and religion reminds us of these truths. That there is a better way of being in relationship with each other, ourselves, and our natural environment. That there are better ways of being a society together. That forgiveness is better than anger. That love and compassion and generosity and solidarity are better than fear and self-centeredness. For all our hand-wringing about the changing place of church, communities such as ours still matter. They still matter. As Reverend Bulata ended his sermon with these words, he said, as long as people search for significance in their lives, we will be there. As long as people long for meaning in life, we will be there. As long as people grieving the death of loved ones want to celebrate life and bury their dead, we will be there. We will be there as long as people ask, why? My friends, watching this on your own separate devices, I realize this has gotten all a little heady in the last few moments, but we are about to approach this moment of radical realized folk ecclesiology when at 11:30 we hold our annual meeting. It is one way we become the church, and that feels so important. May it be so, and amen.
Bring out my senses and hear the earth call, with the deep power of being in awe. Keep with the breath pathway with radiance cheer. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
Our service is drawing to a close, so I invite you to extinguish your chalice, your candles that you have lit. And once you've done so, I invite you to type into the chat as a way of showing your commitment to live this faith out into the world. I invite you to type, I carry the flame, or we carry the flame. Friends, as you close this browser window and go about the rest of your day, I invite you to remember that you carry the flame, and you carry the flame out into the world to use it to brighten your pathways. And when you need to rest or recharge, be challenged or affirmed, may that light guide you and go with you always. May it be so. Go in peace. And amen.